All right, next up, Anthony Smith versus Devin Clark. And as I stated at the beginning of this video, when we were talking about people who are fighting too often, one of those people is Anthony Smith. Anthony holding a record of 33-16. Devin Clark holding a record of 12-4. Let's quickly get into Anthony. So Anthony is coming off a 2-fight losing streak against two pretty tough guys. The problem is, like, Glover Teixeira beat him down. Alexander Rakic picked him apart. And both those fights were in a few months of each other. Now he's back 3 months later. You know, he did win against Alexander Gustafsson, but to be quite honest, guys, like, I'm not hyped up on Alexander Gustafsson. I don't know if you guys are, but I'm not saying he's a bad fighter, but to win against Alexander Gustafsson now is not a big deal to me. It's not, like, impressive to me, you know? He did beat Volkan Ozdemir, which to me, that is a bigger win than Alexander, in my opinion. He's lost to a lot of guys who have strength. Thiago Santos, John Jones, well, clearly, but Rakic and Teixeira recently. Now, that Teixeira fight, like, that was a bit suspect in itself because, you know, you saw Anthony had Teixeira going on in the first round and then kind of gassed out, and that's when Teixeira brought it in. But then what does that show? Lack of fight IQ, right? I think Anthony has a lot of potential still, even though he's 32 years old, even though he has 16 losses. You know, he does pretty well against his competition usually when he's not beating the top echelon guys. I just feel like he comes back so quickly now. It's like he lost and he's trying to catch up on his losses. And man, if you want to catch up on your losses, at some points you got to look at yourself and say, hey, I just took a couple bad beatings. I made a couple bad mistakes. And prior to that, you know, I had a win and then a loss. And he was on a good streak prior to all of that happening. So take a little break, come back, and come back hard. But take that break, like, heal your body, train, look to, you know, include new tools into your game even, and just kind of get back into that mode of a reset. You're coming off 2 losses. You're already going to be in a bad space. There's going to be a bit more pressure because what happens if you lose 3 in a row, Anthony? What happens if you lose 3 in a row? Because that's not going to look good. It's going to be harder for him to get back on top. Does he now become like that gatekeeper kind of character? Do we want him in that role? This happens to a lot of guys that, like, show a lot of potential and then it kind of goes away. I'd rather this not happen to Anthony, but it might. Let's take a look at Devin Clark. And Devin's record, I mean, like, as of recently, it's kind of like Anthony's. He does a few wins and then he loses one, a couple wins and then he loses one, and that's kind of how his record's just been, except for early on in his career. And I hate early on in your career because most of the times these guys who fight early on in their career are beating guys that are 1-0, 3-0, or 0-4. And those guys are just like guys that help elevate you to your next stage, but they're not really competition. Like, it's just kind of a gimme, right? And I don't like gimmies. I don't like guys who fight gimmies all the time. And then you see him fight someone like Alexander Rakic as well, and, you know, he lost. Jan Blachowicz, he lost. He even lost to Ryan Spann. The good thing about this guy is that he has a variety of ways that he wins and a variety of ways that he loses, though. Like, he's lost by choke, but he's also won by a rear naked choke. So he's got some skill sets. And, you know, he beat Alonzo Menafield in his last fight, and that wasn't too long ago. I believe that was sometime in June. And before that, this is where it gets iffy again, because he beat Daquan Townsend, but, like, that's Daquan Townsend. Like, once again, you can't consider that a win. Prior to that, loses to Ryan Spann. The point is, it seems like he has the same problem. When he gets to a certain level, he tends to lose against people who maybe have a better fight IQ than him. Or maybe they have a skill set that can beat out what Clark can even pull out. So looking at this fight, I'm not confident in either of these guys. If I have to pick, I'm going to go with Clark simply because he's had 2 wins back to back. Now, yeah, one is against Daquan Townsend, and the other one, though, is against Alonzo Menafield. And, like maybe Anthony is going to look to do what Alonzo looked to do, which Alonzo, as we know, just he's got power. He looks for the knockout. So Anthony might do this again, and he might not clip him, and he might gas out. And at that point, Clark might be able to take over. I think this is a good bet to bet on Clark, even though I'm not confident on either of these guys. I think taking the chance on Clark might be worth it, since he is on a 2-fight win streak. And Anthony is on a 2-fight losing streak. Clark probably has a little bit better wrestling, maybe. And the other thing to consider is Devin's moving up. You know what I mean? He's coming up into the rankings. He's working his way up. So he probably has a bit more heart to win, which is weird because Anthony Lionheart Smith, right? But Anthony, he was at the top and he's kind of peaked, and he hasn't really held himself up there, right? He's starting to come down. And I can't rely on that. I know a lot of people are high on Anthony on this fight. I just don't see it. I think if Devin Clark takes Anthony out in this fight, that, we're going to have to reevaluate where Anthony, stands in the, not just the rankings, but where is he going in his career? Because it ain't going to be good. 3 losses in a row for him. I think Devin Clark's going to take the win here. That's exactly what's going to happen, in my opinion. I'm just going to say by decision to be safe, but really he could win by just having Anthony gas out and then win by TKO. But I do think it's more likely to be a decision. So I'm going to go Devin Clark by decision.